But if they're too constricted, we can't feel a thing. And now you think we're apathetic. Oh, they're young. What do they know? Well, a lot. If you listen, we only have one shot. Here we go. Don't miss it. We know how it feels to be overlooked. So we're taking a flight to the world's ear, politics by the youth. Are you listening now?
That's where it started. That's where we began. And I guess we've been looking for a way to make that bigger, to blow it up, make it worldwide, make the change happen in more than just a small town in Alabama. And so that's what we've dedicated our lives to trying to do. And we think that jumping is probably the secret. And I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to read something that I wrote not too long ago. And just as I read it, maybe think if something hits you in the chest, try to hang on to it and then share it out after I finish reading. It's not too long. So much of our messaging regarding how education should change is deflected by either elementary or secondary, middle or high, young or old, as being too level specific. Sure, that makes sense for high school. Of course that's working for you. You're an elementary teacher. It creates an atmosphere in which categories can't combine into fruitful understanding of a singular focus. Admittedly, at the same time, cultural connotations of certain words, phrases, and articulations hinder a collective consciousness that may lead to positive adaptations at full scale. The pragmatics of our discourse are so complex that we have to encode and decode from server to node, i.e. human with an idea to human looking for an idea, often with an extremely lossy algorithm. We can't achieve our change at scale. That's why we haven't changed. That's why we are just now considering this alteration, this altercation. It isn't because we don't feel it. It isn't because we aren't capable of comprehending it. And it isn't because we can't name it. It's because we can't accurately join forces. It's because no revolution has ever happened without a rallying cry. The concept cohesion it seeks to represent is the brain equivalent of charge. When you're at the top of a ski slope, when you're on the edge of a plane's opening at 15,000 feet, when you first approach the edge of the diving platform, that's when the rallying cry begins. That's when partners' urgings make or break you. There's only one thing to do. There should be no confusion. But the fear of altering the state of things, the fear of the unknown, takes over and offers you a smorgasbord of reasonable opportunities to turn it down and find a different way down. Jump. The difference between these scenarios and our current one in education is that technically the diver on the platform does have an option. Technically the skydiver could chicken out and live a fruitful life, and technically the skier could opt out for a hot cup of cocoa back at the lodge instead of the thrill of a lifetime. In education, the ground beneath the diver is on fire. The skydiver's airplane is 10 seconds from combustion, and the skier is trying to outrun an avalanche. The only thing missing from the urgent cry of jump is an operator whose sole purpose is to facilitate new connections. Hashtag jump. So that's sort of the thesis of the whole idea. We all need something, all educators worldwide, all students worldwide need an operator, need something that can connect them extremely easily. And we think that hashtag jump could potentially be that thing. Anybody feel anything from what I read? Anything hit you?
Encode, decode, man, there are just so many different words that could essentially mean the same thing, but some people are all about confidence and all about like, and you have to, it prevents that actual progress of the work.
Agreed. Totally agree.
And how many times are we asking why? Like how many times we're actually stopping and asking why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And not only why are we doing this, but why are we doing this to them?
And why are we doing it that certain way?
Right.
And
think-
not focusing on the kids.
I think a major theme of what I just read is fear. I think that's kind of what surrounds all of the possible answers to that question.
And I like how you sort of set that up, but then you also described how, you know, the plane's on fire or the whatever, you know, like, I don't think we have an option. I'm glad we don't. I'm ready to jump.
Yeah.
We should just have
No, I mean, it's a disservice.
Do you think that there are educators out there who don't feel the sense of urgency, who don't feel that we need to shift, that we need to change, or that we need to evolve, or
Absolutely.
yeah,
Who's
Why?
in charge?
Yeah.
Because they're the data drivers. They're the ones who, everything has to have accountability tied to it. They're the ones who say, well, we know you're a good teacher, but you just gotta have that evidence to show it.
Yeah.
And it really needs to look just like this. Well, then, I'm tired of that.
Yeah.
My students are not just like this. I
Right.
teach gifted kids. They're never, ever, ever going to be just like this.
Wow.
And they're so very sick of not having their challenges met. They're so very sick of sitting in a classroom and hearing the same thing over and over, just in a different way. Well, I told you this in a different way. Oh, you want more of this? Here's some rigor. Do it 25 more times.
Wow.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It is.
So, yeah, I think, yes, there are educators who, they're not ready to jump in. They're called our leaders.
Wow.
I'd like to plug James really quickly. After the session, if you'd like to talk to James about a potential solution that could satisfy everyone involved, I really do think Mastery Connect is special. It's a way to satisfy some of those needs that those people think that they, have with what we are trying to do. So.
Well, I mean, they'll say, well, no, we want the betterment for our students. We want to see you challenging them. We want to see very innovative classrooms. But then, oh my gosh, well, help me out then, would you?
Yeah.
Like,
They don't seem to feel the
because that's what
responsibility.
They also don't understand that also the research proves that there is a dip. There is going to be a dip when you do something different. And so you have to trust us as educators for 2 years, and you got to hang on, and you got to let us get through that dip. And then the last thing you're going to be thinking about is test scores, because they're going to be sitting there at whatever you've decided you need them to be. And then all we'll be doing is teaching them and empowering them to learn in this way, the way that they want to learn.
Absolutely. Aren't you so proud of university sectors like Templeton no longer is looking at test scores
Oh my God.
for admissions?
It's huge.
Do you know how huge that is for my very creative son? He has wonderful test scores. He's a good test taker. What was that test they took for Olson?
Yeah.
He's one of the only kids in the nation that scored it perfect. You know what? I gotta look at common sense. I don't know how I did that. But I also know that I have other very smart children who don't test well. And they're never gonna look good to you on paper.
And we also have geniuses in our
They're never
schools,
gonna look good to you on
right,
paper.
that are never,
No.
yep, and that's it. That's absolutely it. What we've realized, we're very deeply fueled by, Margaret Mead's thing, that it just takes a few committed citizens to change the world. And Daniel and I are aware that it's grassroots. There's a reason that there's only a few people in this room, and it is going to take every single person in this room shifting their classrooms and their learning environments and their learning experiences and standing up to those people, to those administrators, and showing them. I mean, all we are doing every single day in our, that we, and we are aware of how lucky we were in the roles that we're both currently in, is to try to shift these fixed, so deeply fixed hearts first, and then minds, to just open up a little bit. And we hope that the way we can do it is by as much youth voice being included as student voice. But we hope that it is led by teacher voice and student voice, and that all we're doing is standing in the back clapping and crying.
Can I say something?
Please speak.
So we recently had an opportunity, because I really believe in opportunities for my students, and I invite people to my school and my classroom all the time. And I don't care what level you are, what you do. I want you to come and see, if you have any kind of connection, I want you to come and see what my kids have done, because it is mind-blowing.
I know.
It makes me cry.
It should.
Yeah.
It's the most amazing things that I've done. And so we talk about all the time about my kids and the frustrations in education, and keep in mind I teach third, fourth, and fifth graders.
Uh-huh.
And we have these wonderful conversations about it. We invited the Board of Education to come. I'm just curious as to what districts do you all teach in?
Enterprise.
Stressful.
Tarrant.
I'm in Montville.
Wow.
I'm in Jefferson County, and I don't care to tell you.
And
And so
I'm
when my
Madison.
reps show up and my students leave, I said, so guys, give me some feedback. What did you think about it? We came to see you, read. And one said, Miss Mo, man, I'm not even joking. Are they all ancient or what? And I was like, okay, we need to say that a little more respectfully, okay? And he was like, yeah, but I mean, seriously, like my grandmother.
I would argue that them being ancient has nothing to do with their age.
Right.
And everything to do with their mindset.
And they exactly say the same thing, but what they're saying is that we don't have progressiveness because we have educators leading our educators who have not been in a classroom in 25 plus years.
Yeah.
Actually, I sat at a conference with a woman who told me she had 42 years of education history. She's in leadership now, but she hasn't taught it forever. Really?
Go for it.
What spoke to me about what you read, there was something you said about it's too level specific, like what level are you on, what level are you on? I'm on an administrative level, I'm on a, that kind of level. It starts there with these different levels, and then, we're teaching on a certain level, though I may be learning beyond that level, or I may not be on that level, but this is the level that I'm teaching on. So as you said, the level specificity of it kind of makes it very stagnant.
It's hard, yeah. It creates these compartments, and if you're in that compartment, you can talk.
Yeah.
But if you're in a different one, you can't communicate.
Right.
It's like you're speaking a different language.
Absolutely. So that was one thing that spoke to me. The other thing you said was collective conscience, join forces, bringing it together. You've got to, as you say, this collective. It has to be children involved in it, teachers involved in it, administrators involved in it, and as you say, you bring the administrators into your classroom. Yes, we need to bring those administrators in there and let the children help them to convert.
That's
They
it.
have to become more progressive in their
Yes.
thinking. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
just, can't all be the same.
That was something that, when we were like, it's 2 in the morning and we are like trying to figure out how we're possibly going to, design this and like make it make sense to people. It kept coming back to that. How could we get the most difficult, stuck human we've got that is calling all the shots in education to shift? The only hope, and this has been true since the beginning of time, is the child's voice, is the child's actions. So why are we so afraid of redesigning and redefining how we learn? They need to be the ones in charge.
Right, because they're the ones that it affects. It affects them on a deep level.
It is their life.
Forever.
Literally, it is their life.
And something else I think I'm realizing about the whole youth versus culture thing is, as we grow up, we kind of give up on possibilities. We kind of say this is the way things are, and it's not going to change. Children don't get that. Children think anything's possible.
Right, and rightfully so, they should feel that.
Yeah.
What is his name in the video? That says the part about dreaming.
I can't.
God, he was the youngest.
We've always dreamed, haven't we?
That he wrote that line.
Yeah.
He was the youngest kid, and he wrote that line, and the way he says it in the video, like I can't even breathe when he says it, because it's like, what are we doing to these kids?
It's the most sincere thing in the whole video.
Yeah, and that look on his face, and it's like, we have to do something differently. We have to. So for us, and for this one, we're trying to teach it and explain it to other people. This is kind of like our list of, for the sake of this conference, it starts with that it's never about technology. And these are the words for us.
So it's about innovation. And I think that's something that, I think Beth and I have struggled with that word for years.
Oh, for sure.
And it's in her title at her school district. And I think she struggled with that a little bit too. But the more we struggled with it, the more we figured out that's actually what it is. We have to change, and the word innovation stands for change. It's about empowerment of everyone involved. So often, someone in the room knows the answer. They know what the change should be. But if they're not empowered to speak up, if they're afraid to speak up, then we will never know as a collective, whether it's your organization or your classroom or your family. They will never know what the answer is if that person doesn't feel empowered to speak up and actually make that change. It's about access. And access is a word that we could riff on for a day and a half. And we have. We did at Harvard. We kind of riffed on that for an entire session. The idea of access applies both to technology, but it applies to each other. And if we don't build the constructs necessary, the avenues necessary to communicate with each other and give access to each other, then we're moving backwards. But it's also just as important to work our butts off to provide access for everyone to the internet. This is the great leveler. And something we've been talking about all day and all conference is all of these tools that we love and that we need and that we use and that we want to continue using and we want to grow, but without access, it can't be done. And that's something that I haven't figured out yet. We're working on it. At Madison, we have something like 18 to 19% of our students don't have home internet access. That's a major problem. And many of your districts are probably worse than that. Ours is a pretty affluent district. So that's another huge problem that we have to solve. Beth just nailed it with student voice. That maybe should be at the very top. And it's about partnerships. It's about those of us in the room right now forming this connection, making sure that connection remains real by partnering in the future. And that to me drives this whole thing home. And it's about accomplishment. That's a new one that we've added recently, and I want to talk about that a little bit if you'll hit that next slide. So go ahead and hit the next guy. Mark Prinsky, author of Teaching Digital Natives and a lot of other essays and books. I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of months ago. He's really preaching this gospel about accomplishment right now, and I'm not sure how it completely fits into the message of JUMP. But I do know that it's really important. And he talks a lot about how we used to live in an apprenticeship culture. We used to live in an accomplishment-based culture. And then somewhere around the Industrial Revolution, education got industrialized also. And he's saying now, with the advent of the internet and the hyperconnectivity of all of us, now we have to find a way to shift back. So it's actually not that new of a concept, this accomplishment culture. And this quote, accomplishment-based education, not content or skills, not artificial problem solving. Education should be about students improving the real world now. What do you guys, does that make you think of anything? What do you think about that?
What really shifts the preparing for the future into what students are capable of doing right now to help the community?
Yeah, I'm constantly frustrated about my district because our focus is so heavy Like they say things like, we need to be preparing students for the future. We need to be preparing students, which I understand what they're saying, but their students don't know things now. I mean, they don't connect with each other. They don't connect with what they're learning. They don't connect with people around the world. It's amazing to me what my students don't know. Like, that is just common knowledge. That I'm like, if you had something like Twitter at your disposal, you would know this. If you ever, like, if your teachers ever taught you these things, but we focus so much, just the district, and I understand that some of these teachers have pressure on them because our district focuses so much on test scores and on achievement that they lose sight of the students being people.
Girl.
And really,
And so they put them all, their names up on
Yeah,
the wall, and they
here's-
dot them
so we have
on the
these
graph.
data
and
The data room.
We have these data.
Lord
like
help
graphs of test scores, and I'm like, I don't care about this.
And then what happens to the people that are asking why? And what happens to the people that are saying, I don't care about this?
Well, the people who are takers and people, and we work on all the students, or people who are sick for the test.
Yeah.
right.
Everything should provide that.
Well, those students think that they're not smart and school isn't for them, and you know, because I hated school. It's a miracle I even went to college, and this is my complete passion.
If you look up the word achievement in any thesaurus, one of the first 4 or 5 words you're going to see is accomplishment. So what's crazy is this baggage that society has sort of connoted to these words. Think about the connotation of achievement in the world of education. What is the connotation? It's actually your entire last sentence. That's what the connotation is. Accomplishment is a fresh idea. As much of a synonym as it is, I think accomplishment is something that we can all begin to latch on to. Let's push forward.
So then, I mean, and this is really, what we dream about, to just sit in rooms and talk to people. So,
how do you guys fit? How does the teacher fit into the equation? What is a teacher then? If this is the new construct, if this is the new world. Heck yeah, nice one.
the beautiful word.
Facilitator, learn, make it easy for everybody to learn, to contribute, to be a part of that collective conscience.
Wow.
Just open. That word, really resonates with me. The collective conscience, not necessarily the brain, but like the feeling of knowledge.
Yeah, the soul.
Like, let's get emotional about what we're learning for a minute,
Feeling empowered by it, feeling empowered by my comfort at saying, I don't know how to do this. The teacher just explained it, but I still don't know how to do it, but I just don't feel comfortable enough to ask, could you work another problem like that? Could you do that again? I still don't get it. Can somebody else show me how to do that? They're just not comfortable enough to do it. Okay, then you get the kid who knows how to do it. Okay, can you talk it out? Just talk what you're thinking. It's like a comfort level in the classroom as opposed to just like a rigid that structured,
And I think if your classroom extends into the world of what Amber Pope's classroom does, which is the entire world on Twitter, then you're talking about like a consciousness that includes everyone else, and that's where they're at anyway. They just have to,
But you can't have that comfort. Kids have to know that you care about them,
right?
And that they will care about you, and then they will.
Agreed. And in a second we're going to show you our sort of 4-step repeating construct, and the first one is connect, and that's where it starts every time.
They can't just be numbers on a page or points on a graph. They have to be people. They are humans, and we need to treat them like humans.
Well, we got this new software, Chalkable now, right?
Stop. It's so good. I will run laps in this room.
Every test score from first grade to
Oh.
12th, every test you go to take. If you didn't take the test, it won't be there. But if you took the test, it's going to be there. Name a test. Name one.
Make up a test right now, and we'll put it on there so quick you don't even know what to do with it.
That's hilarious. It makes me think of that in the video when they say it's not a, this is, what is it? It's not a silver bullet. This is not a book or a program.
This is not, this is a paradigm shift. Like, and do you see those teachers' faces in that video? The teacher that was saying the thing about burning bridges, I mean, she was so on fire in that room.
She had to dilute herself to get to that. She was hyped.
Yes.
Yeah. She was, bless her heart, she was so scared. She thought, what if I say this? Is it going to backfire? You know, and
that's what everybody says. I don't feel comfortable working with you because there is a chance I will do something outside of this tiny box, and someone might say, "Whoa, like that's not okay," because that kid did something really awesome and cool that has nothing to do with doing well on that test, and then you just keep doing it. Wow, I would love to know more about her. We became obsessed with the word activator. Because that is the term that Michael Fullen uses, and we really respect his work, and we really see him still as a visionary in education. So the term we're really trying to get teachers to use, because facilitator is an awesome word, and we really love that so much more than like the, from the sage on the stage to the guide on the side to the facilitator. When we think about this idea, we think it is born completely when you see yourself as an activator. I think you have a good definition, too, of this term.
I don't know if I have a definition or not, but I can riff on it some more. I mean, I think that the idea of an activation, that's what we all seek for our kids in the classroom. We want them to become activated, and the beauty of the idea, the concept of activation is that once that activation occurs, and the teacher is maybe the catalyst for that activation, then all of a sudden something larger is exploded out of that. And that, to me, is the beautiful thing. It's that a tiny atom can become an atom bomb. And that's what can happen in the mind of a young person if the teacher is driven by this idea of an activator.
One thing that's sticking out to me as well is that when you talk about activate, it seems like the materials are already there. The potential, the power is already there, and you just have to unlock it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not bestowing this knowledge or giving this to the kids. The kids have it. Right.
Totally.
Turning it on or something.
Totally. Yeah. And that's also what it's about, like hearing this and then defining it for yourself and then doing it. Yeah. That's it. That's it. So what Daniel was speaking on earlier, kind of like how this is our jam, like this is how we think that this can happen. And
let's just talk out each one of these things. I mean, let's start at the top left. That one seems to be the one that's the
it's what you both said. It's that it starts with relationships. It starts with being an advocate. They have to have a relationship with you as their mentor, as their partner, side by side with them.
And something that I've become extremely passionate about in the last year is digital portfolios. And the reason is the mantra is so amazingly low-tech and psychological. It's just show, then reflect. And this idea of reflection is what leads to the top right one. The idea that a child or a human being should be constantly having a conversation with him or herself, constantly reflecting on what he or she did well or didn't do well, and solving their own problems by way of self-conversation. So there's a connection that needs to be made for the kid with himself. And that's something that I think so often is left out of education. It's a very spiritual thing. And that's one of the reasons that it gets left out, because teachers walk on eggshells about the spiritual aspect of self-conversation. My wife is a 7th grade English teacher, and she's phenomenal. She teaches kids how to read. Not what the words are, not how to construct sentences, but how to feel the words on the page. And the way that she teaches them is that if the kid is not having a conversation with himself while he's reading what's on the page, then they're not reading. And that's something that teachers typically don't, sort of divulge to the kids.
And then the next one is really about the world that we live in today. And we teach digital natives. And Mark Prinsky has gone even farther than that. Amber's kids, Daniel's kids, are mobile natives because they are under the age of 8 and they were born with these digital mobile devices coming, in their hands. It's not even a laptop or a computer connected to an Ethernet. It's a whole nother level of being connected. And there is so much power in this device when you are given access to it fully, without a filter, and it is connected to Wi-Fi that works.
And obviously the bottom right one, the world. I mean, I don't know what needs to be said. Does anybody have anything to say about that one? It's our kids are global citizens. I'm a
You are
global
a
citizen.
speck in 7 billion, but you matter so much. You don't need a trophy every time you do something cool, but you do need to be respected as who you are, and the school and classroom that you are in, and the teacher that you are talking to every single minute of the day needs to jam out with you on that at all times. And if not, then you're never going to get out of it what you're supposed to.
Well, and students, I don't think, feel like citizens of the world. They don't feel like that they're a part of something big like that. They see like very locally.
It's because the adults in their life have had the veil over them, and they haven't yet removed it. It's like when you turn 18, we'll tell you the secret that you're hyper-connected.
Yeah.
You know?
But until then, like.
And that's why it rubs us the wrong way when we talk about teaching digital citizenship. Well, I mean, she kind of jammed out on that in the last session. She said she wanted to make a T-shirt that says "Teach Digital Citizenship" without ever saying digital citizenship, and we felt that way for years.
Right.
I said it on a TEDx stage,
Yeah.
And I probably got some oohs and ahs when I said it. But it drives me nuts because you can't talk about digital citizenship in the hypothetical realm.
You have to do it.
It's a
You have to live
realistic
it.
thing.
You have to let them make mistakes.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're not going to get it. It's just bottom line, they're not going to get it.
I think maybe, and that's the thing that blows our minds as millennials, like that are stuck in between the world of no tech and, oh my God, high tech, I cannot live without the device for 5 minutes, is that these are very like universal, simple things. They just need to be like applied and done in the classroom. So the way that we, you know, this circle defines our work. This is how we do what we do every single day, whether we are working with a student or a teacher or an administrator or a policymaker or a community member or a parent. This is our circle of life. I mean, essentially, this is what makes sense to us.
What we did, what we have done in Madison City, and it's a struggle every day, right? And I can't sleep at night because it doesn't. I'm trying this. I'm pushing this. I'm branding this, and I'm putting it on T-shirts, and I'm preaching it with teachers and with kids, and it still isn't living up to what it needs to live up to yet for me. But the idea here was, for us, we spend a year on this construct, and then year 2, we come back and we focus on the word connect for an entire year, because it's that important and it's that difficult to shift the paradigm. So it's going to take a lot of time in an organization.
And this slide alone is connections.
Yeah.
This slide alone is partnerships. So we don't mean connections just in the sense to the device. We mean we really want to get intense and heavy on connections between people, humans. We want you to be able to feel comfortable as an educator to sit down and make eye contact with your superintendent or administrator and say, you're not right. This doesn't make sense. I'm the one that knows these kids. Like we have to change something. And then it will change. It will happen. Like, because you're right. Like, that's what it is.
But that has to be so cautiously done.
I know.
Yeah.
Just like with I agree. In fact, there is no one in our central office that I call doctor. I just don't. When I'm talking to them about something personal.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking to them professionally, by all means, you're a doctor. I'm talking to you. But you have to do all that, just like I told our students. You don't want your student to come and say, hey, you know what, you're wrong. Because yes, you may be right, but that's kind of abrasive to me.
Oh, the number one word that people define me as, if you were asking something negative, is abrasive. So I'm with you.
You kind of get a little more done though if you're softer.
For sure. But here, so do you know what you just did? Do you know what you just did? You brought us to the second thing. Daniel and I work because all of his greatness are all of the things that I am weak in, and vice versa. He is the most introverted, does not want confrontation human I have ever met. And I am the exact, bring me, I'm dying, right? Like, I live for it. And so we balance each other out. She and I are the same way. And that she and I are this, it's the only way that it works. But if kids aren't exposed to that and aren't given the chance to find their partners, to create the balance, to create these beautiful things in the world to make it a better place, then we're going to stay stuck in this nasty, murky public education water, and I can't breathe.
And if the conversation goes incorrectly or derails a little bit, you end up with group work. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the oldest one in the book, and it drives me insane. And you see it in your schools all the time. Just because you put 3 desks together does not mean that you're forming partnerships. There has to be a purpose. That's why I'm so in love with your session on project-based learning in the math classroom. There has to be real purpose. With purpose, with a why, comes partnerships. Without a why, no partnerships are formed. Maybe some connections, but no partnerships.
Right.
And so if you see connections being made and they're not being fostered into partnerships, then you know you have a problem. Because there's no way you're going to move on. Why would you create anything if you don't have a purpose? You don't have anything to create.
You can make something because you have to, because you've been told. But creating something, it's a different word. And I love the maker movement. I love it dearly. But it's not the same thing as creating content, as creating change. Will
you keep going until our thesis paragraph? I want to read this out loud, and I want to go there for a sec. We must construct new, responsible, and innovative learning experiences designed to empower our youth to grow, communicate, and learn in a way that is congruent to who they are at their root. Global citizens connected to the world as pioneering digital natives, right? So now go back. If they are global citizens connected to the world as pioneering digital natives, that is the call to action. That is why they have to create something and share it. Because everyone is experiencing the same problem and we don't have any of the solutions yet. And so if no one creates the solution and then shares it with the world, then we're all going to continue to be in the dark. And that's why I recommended to you that your story is so compelling about project-based learning in the math classroom. Every math teacher in America right now is sitting there going, I can't do project-based learning because I have to do this list, right? And if I don't do this list probably in order, then I'm going to get fired, or I'm not going to be able to show student mastery.
So
right?
His mind is being blown, and then I look back at him and I said, no, dude, like, you haven't been in her classroom. She's got 30 kids, and they're all doing self-paced learning. On top of doing this awesome real project, the kid that has mastered every single standard in 7th grade math before he walked in her door, she didn't teach him a single one of those standards. She let that kid move on. That is revolution. That's what this is. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And we love the dichotomy of pioneering digital natives. We love stealing that word pioneer, not just because we're nerdy social studies teachers. And pairing it with digital native, because that's what it is. It's a both and thing. America hasn't been around that long. We are still figuring this out. And when you make something, even if it is this small and it has any type of a positive impact, you have to put it out there. You have to share. I love I can never remember who said it, but you are never free until you freed someone else. And that to us is what education is, that you are set free to be yourself.
So the create and share portions of the cycle, it's something that I dedicated the last 3 years of my life to the idea of creating and sharing. I worked at a high school, and I was blessed to be able to teach in a 100% project-based environment where I was not held accountable to standards. And it was a beautiful thing. There was no test for video production. It's a career tech class. And I have experienced this firsthand. When the pressure is removed, when the focus is on creation and creating meaningful things that instigate change, that was our focus. That was our mission statement at James Clemens High School. And once adults and administrators and policymakers began to see the output, the sharing portion, that's when they started considering listening to my voice and to my kids' voice. But not until then. Because they have to be shown, and then they'll listen. They can't. They might listen, but they won't hear to steal from White Men Can't Jump. They might listen, but they won't hear until they're shown the product, until they see it.
Yeah, one of our favorite authors is Austin Kleon, and his work is solely creative. Like, I think that's how he would define himself. His first book was called Steal Like an Artist, and his second is Show Your Work. And a lot of our stuff for Share is from Show Your Work. And so we're asking you, anytime you have any cool thought, or you do anything different or interesting, or you have a student create something, you've got to share it, and you have to find your people. You have to connect to your people so that your people then share it to who they have partnered with, so that then we can steal your work, and like an artist does, and then we can share it again. Seth Godin, another one of our favorite authors, says that teachers are artists. And we love that. That was another big thing that we pushed when we spoke at Harvard, and we love the idea that we would love to shift the mindset to believe that you are a designer. You are a designer of learning experiences. You are not a creator of lesson plans.
You could just walk out now. So let's jump to this guy right here. We can talk about it. That's what I'd like to do, and not in order, but we've posed 3 simple questions. Why is it important to make a jump? We've already sort of talked about it. Question 2, in what ways do you intend to jump next year, or in life, or anytime? And then 3, how can you inspire others to jump? So maybe we talk it out, and if you think of something brilliant, you tweet it.
Am I brilliant? We don't.
I've been talking to Jennifer a lot about this. I'm a librarian, by the way, and I do a lot of collaborative stuff with teachers, not necessarily the instruction itself, a little bit, but not that much. And something that's been very frustrating to me is that old mindset of teaching and assessing and teaching and assessing and teaching and assessing, and not allowing the students to really do much of the learning. So something that I think, this is more about what I'm intending to do, I guess, but something that I think might be beneficial for me just in my own sanity, and also in hopefully inspiring other people, is finding the people that do want to do this stuff. Like, they're there. There are a few teachers at my school that are ready. They're ready to do it. They just need somebody to partner with them.
I promise you, if you dedicate a year to partnering with only them, and creating and sharing your work as publicly as humanly possible, then the next year it will work exponentially. So by a factor of 2, probably.
And the really cool thing is that's all I'm doing, and they are 2 of that team, and I have a whole 1-pager of how I'm making that work. And so all you can do is steal all of those resources from me. You know what I'm saying? And you take what works for you, and you do that. And when it sucks and when it doesn't work, remember the people in this room. Reach out to those that you really know and get revitalized. And then try again after you've taken a breath and a nap. Like, it's going to work.
I've been, not to get too personal, but I've been in borderline depression mode for the last 3 months. Because I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall with all of the responsibilities that I have and all the jobs that I have that aren't related to this beautiful idea that we have, you know? And so
we just want to do the real work.
And last night, I think I was in my hotel room, and I'm trying to remember where I was, and my kids were with me, so who knows where we were. But I tweeted that I had a lot of fun today, and that's something that I haven't said about education in a matter of probably many months. And so, what you said about coming back to this room and remembering the people in the room, that's super important. But then, luckily, we're connected now.
And that tweet has 15 likes and 10 retweets. People were so happy that Daniel was happy. You know what I mean? Like, it was a cool...
Hopefully it didn't feel like a pity.
Cool sentiment. It did. It felt like the truth.
Yeah.
Like,
you talk about how to inspire others to jump, and I was just going to play off of what you said a little bit too, because what I do is I invite teachers to come in my classroom, and if I get those very innovative teachers to come in and see something that the kids have done in the classroom, or I move gallery walks, I step out in my hallways. I'm very fortunate in the school that I teach in that I have the whole wing of the school, and I'm the only teacher down here.
That's a dream. That's a school within a school.
The population is diminished, so now I have a big wing down here myself. So I actually have 2 classrooms, and all my junk is in one, and like makerspace stuff and
Cool.
that sort of thing. So anyway, we have a lot of space, but teachers come down and they just see what we've done. But one of the librarian came to me not long ago, and she said, Sheila, the thing that bothers me so much as a teacher actually came in the library today, and here's what she said. Now, don't forget, students, just because when they're in the end of the school year, you still need to get one book on your level and one book that you like. How funny is that? Is that not hilarious?
It's hard to even like.
It makes me
You get one book on your level and one book that you just, you want to read for fun, and that's what and one book you just want to read. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I was just, as I was thinking about these questions, I feel like answering question 3 answers question 1. So.
That's.
When I'm thinking of like the jumping out of that plane, right? I would be afraid to do that. But if I saw others jumping out ahead of me, like you guys are doing for us today, that inspires me to say, I can do this, and I'm gonna be okay, right? And so, then answering the question, why is it important to make a jump? Is because if we don't make that jump for others to see, they might not make that jump. And so, we're not all in the same district. We're all in different places. And it's up to us that we're here now to start that little spark, be that person with a jump, so that others can see that and take courage. They can do it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my teachers brought to me the TED Talk about tribes.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I walked in, I'm like, I think I found a tribe.
You did.
And that's what's important. I'm kind of gathering my tribe at my school, the few people that speak the language we're speaking. And then, I used to try to focus on everybody. You can't affect everybody.
I think that's why I'm so depressed, why I'm so exhausted is the right word. Because I've been trying to focus on everybody, and that's impossible.
And you can't. And the more that you can connect with your tribe, and they can give to you, and they feed you, and you feed them, then just like you're saying, that if we can spotlight that, if we can really publicize and invite other people in,
This is it. So what we would love to do within this tribe is to specifically showcase your work, to show your work, not just to show our work. It would be so amazing to think of this, to be at AETC next year and have this exact same session, hopefully at a different time and date, and have a showcase example from each one of the individuals in this room and say, this is what we mean, and this is this work in action, and you can do it. And do you know why you can do it? Because James jumped out of the plane even though he was completely scared. And you know what else he admitted he was? Because that's the other thing. I mean, Brene Brown's work on vulnerability, we got to work with John Safier for 2 days, and he showed us her TED Talk on vulnerability. I mean, we were just sitting there, and I'm looking at Carrie, and I'm like, dude, this is it. My heart is on my sleeve 24/7, and if it makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but give me a hug and let's go get some work done. It's too important not to, and then you hug someone that does not want to be in your tribe. So one of my main mentors, she says, just focus on what is inside the hand and let go of what's outside of the hand. And your tribe is inside your hand, and we are going to do this.
But your tribe grows.
Yeah.
And each one goes out and they build a sub-tribe at their schools, and then their schools represent for their districts, and then their districts say, hey, wait, State of Alabama. And the State of Alabama says, you know what, I don't like being number 48. So I want whatever the number is.
Here's what I feel like sometimes.
Then you're done.
Here's what I feel like sometimes, and I have a graphic on our blog from a year and a half or 2 ago.
Yeah.
Of a guy standing up on this giant platform, and he's thinking to himself, I want to yell the truth, but what if they hear? What happens to me if they hear me? And that's what I feel like sometimes. I know that's what all of you feel like sometimes. You know the truth, but you're afraid to yell it because you're afraid they might actually hear you.
Yeah.
So here's my dream, and this is why #jump I think matters. My dream, and it would cost $1 million in this construct, but Beth had a free solution earlier, which is awesome. What if we began now the process of planning school districts worldwide, led by maybe us in Alabama, who are a very tightly knit tribe, and we all plan a week where we bring students and teachers and administrators together, and we're all guided by the same questions and the same projects at the same time, and we're all tweeting our solutions and our creations to #jump on the same day at the same time.
Trending is a real thing,
and it trends and it trends and it trends, and then Jimmy Fallon says, "Look what's trending on
works.
Twitter," and then all of a sudden Huffington Post, because they're the quickest to jump on stuff, writes about it, and then the Washington Post writes about it. And that, to me, is the way we convert tribes to real proactive change. And I think that that's why Twitter matters so much, and I think that's why using a hashtag operator, the word works and matters so much. So that's our dream. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week, I don't know, but I think it needs to have that moment of inertia.
And thank God for things like unconferences and ed camps. Like we can steal that whole model and do this for a day, and we'll start there. And you bring your people, you bring your people, you bring yours, etc., and we jam out hard on this, and we create some awesome stuff, and we go from there. We got $25,000 in 2012 to do that Perry County camp.